Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how to remember the details about people that you meet. In my previous videos and my previous trainings, I have showed you how to remember names and faces. So I'm going to assume you already know how to do that. If you don't know how to remember names and faces, click the link below in the comments. But I'm going to assume you already know how to do that. And now I'm going to show you how to remember details about people. So let's say you meet somebody named Brian. Well, the way you remember his name, and I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but the short version is you have a picture for the name Brian, which might be a brain, and then you attach that to a detail on his face, his big eyes, his big nose, chin, goatee, beard, or whatever. Now let's say Brian, you start talking to him, and you want to remember details about Brian, and you've never met him before, and this is his office. You were talking to Brian in this office. What I do is I will pick out something about Brian that's not on his body, and I will, like, if this is the room that I met Brian in, I might zone in on this flag right here. And I'd be like, okay, this flag is going to be where I'm going to store all the information I want to remember about Brian. So I'm talking to Brian, and he says that he has a daughter named Lisa, and I want to remember that. So I create a picture for Lisa, the Mona Lisa, and I attach it to something that reminds me of Brian. So I'm painting the Mona Lisa over here. And then maybe Brian says that he's a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I want to remember that. So then I see a cowboy and on a horse, and it's jumping through right here. In other words, what I do is I take the location that I'm at. Maybe I'm at Brian at his house. So I'm out in Brian's front yard, and I'm talking to him, and he says, yeah, my daughter's name is Lisa. Well, I will look around his front yard, and I'll pick out something in his front yard that's going to be my brain trigger. Maybe it's a big tree, or maybe it's the driveway. And I'll be, okay, over there on that tree, I'm going to imagine the Mona Lisa. Or in the driveway, I'm going to imagine the Mona Lisa. And then he says he's a Dallas Cowboy fan. I take that picture and attach it to the driveway or the tree. Then later when I'm reviewing, I ask myself, all right, I review Brian's name with the steps to review the name. But then I ask myself, what was his distinctive landmark or in that room? Either it was the tree, or it was the driveway, or it was this right here. And then I remember the Mona Lisa getting painted right here. You always pick out something that you can associate. Let's come outside for a second. Let me show you out here. So we're going to do the same thing with a car. So let's say you're standing outside and you are talking to somebody named Lisa. And you're talking out here in the parking lot to Lisa. And as you're talking to Lisa, you notice this is her car. And you're like, wow, that's a really nice car. I like that car. That's what you're thinking in your head. And then Lisa says, you know what, Ron? I am a huge Texas Rangers baseball fan. So you memorize her name using her face. But the distinctive object that you're going to put the Texas Rangers on is this car. Maybe you imagine a guy with a cowboy hat and boots on to think of Texas Rangers. And that cowboy hat is right here on the front of her car. Then when you see Lisa in 6 weeks and you are at the store, you think back to yourself, what was her distinctive object? Oh yeah, it was this car. What was going on that car? Oh yeah, there was a Texas man right there. And then you could ask her, hey, the Texas Rangers are doing pretty good lately. And her eyes light up and she's like, wow, I can't remember my favorite baseball team. Or maybe you're talking to Brian. And as you're talking to Brian, you start thinking back, okay, what did his office look like? Oh yeah, there was that American flag in his office. What was on that? Oh yeah, the Mona Lisa. And then you say, Brian, how's your daughter Lisa doing, by the way? He answers the question, you talk a little bit more, and then you remember there was a Dallas Cowboy jumping through there. Man, you gonna go watch the Cowboys this weekend? It makes people feel special. It makes people feel important when you can remember their family members' names, their favorite sports teams, their hobbies, what's going on in their life. And this is how you do it. You pick an object that you can relate to them. It might be let's turn the camera around this way. Let's turn the camera around this way. This is my office. This is my office. So before you go into my office, you might say, oh my gosh, I'm going to zone in on that bush right there. What I want to remember about Ron, I'm going to attach to this bush. So, and we'll come back over here now. This is how you remember the details about people. You take whatever it is important to you and you attach it to an object that belongs to them. You might get yourself a book when you meet people and just maybe write down Brian and then how you remembered his name, and then the key feature in his office was that American flag, you know, Lisa or whatever, her car, and then the key feature was her car, the Texas Rangers, and then go back and review that maybe once or twice a week or once or twice a month. And that is how you remember details about people. Names are different. You attach the name to their face, but the details about them you don't attach to their face. You attach to objects that belong to them, that remind you of them. I would not pick more than 1 or 2 objects to assign to a person. I think that's plenty, and that's how you do it. Click the link below if you want to know how to remember names.